Every world hides its secrets, and some beings belong to more than one. I am born of two worlds where science meets spirituality and reality collides with imagination. Welcome to the space between worlds. The sun had not touched the high cliffs of Eldrin Peak for months. Heavy clouds circled its summit like chains of smoke, hiding something ancient and powerful inside. The villagers below whispered that the mountain was cursed. No birds flew there anymore, and even the winds avoided its cold breath. At the heart of the mountain, in a cavern vast enough to hold a castle, lay a creature older than time, the last living dragon, Aristhra. Once, her roar shook the skies and her wings darkened the sun. But now she lay silent, unmoving, refusing food, water, and the treasures once offered by those who feared or worshipped her. The elders said she was dying. Others said she had already given up on the world of humans, but none of them knew the truth. Aristhra's golden eyes were half open, reflecting dim light from the cave's mouth. Around her lay piles of gold and silver, treasures from forgotten kingdoms, meaningless now. Her body was thin, her scales dull and cracked. For months she had not eaten. She simply waited for something. Every few days, brave knights, desperate scholars, and greedy kings sent offerings, roasted cattle, jewels, or enchanted gifts. But the dragon turned away from all of it. She had no interest in gold, nor in the taste of flesh. One night, as thunder rolled across the mountains, a faint sound reached her ears, a human voice, soft and trembling, echoing from the dark tunnel. Hello! It was the voice of a child. A small figure stepped into the cavern, holding a weak lantern and a worn piece of bread in one hand. The child's name was Lena, barely 8 years old, dressed in ragged clothes that spoke of hunger and wandering. She had no armor, no weapon, only courage that came from kindness. When Aristhra's eye opened fully, the glow filled the cave like molten gold. The ground trembled slightly. Lena froze, her tiny fingers clutching the bread tighter. The dragon's voice came like a storm whispered through stone. "Why do you enter my den, human child?" Lena's heart pounded. She wanted to run. Every story she'd ever heard said dragons burned thieves alive. But she saw something strange in those golden eyes. Not anger, not hunger. Sadness. She took a shaky breath. I heard you were sick." Aristhra blinked slowly, ancient eyes studying the child as though she were some puzzle beyond understanding. "Sick?" The dragon's voice was deep and heavy. "You think a dragon can be sick?" Lena nodded. "My mama said when someone stops eating and talking, it means their heart is hurting." For a long time, the dragon said nothing. Only the slow drip of water from the ceiling filled the silence. Then, from deep within her chest, came a low sound, not a growl, but something that might once have been a sigh. "You are bold, little one," Aristhra murmured. "Do your people send you to feed me now?" Lena shook her head quickly. "No, I came alone. Everyone else is scared. They think you'll eat them." "And you do not." Lena hesitated, then raised the bread in her hand. "You look too sad to eat anyone." That startled Aristhra. Her massive head lifted slightly, and her golden eyes brightened for the first time in months. A child offering her food, not out of fear or tribute, but kindness. The dragon's gaze fell on the bread, a simple, rough slice, half-eaten. "You would offer me that?" "It's all I have," Lena said softly, "but I can share, half for you, half for me." Something stirred inside the dragon, a memory buried deep in centuries of loneliness. Once long ago, she had made a promise to a human, a promise she had long believed broken. Aristhra lowered her head until her enormous snout was only inches from the trembling child. The air was warm and smelled of smoke and rain. "Tell me, little one," she whispered. "Why do you care if I live or die?" Lena looked at her with clear brown eyes. "Because I don't like seeing anyone alone." For a long moment, time seemed to stop. The lantern flickered. The dragon's chest rose slowly, as if breathing hurt. Then, in a movement so gentle it seemed impossible, she extended one claw and took the bread. The ground rumbled softly as she chewed, more out of curiosity than hunger, but something strange happened. The dull gold in her scales began to shimmer faintly as if awakening from a long dream. Lena smiled, a small, honest smile that reached even the darkest corner of the cave. And for the first time in centuries, Aristhra spoke words that were neither angry nor tired. "What is your name, little human?" "Lena," she said proudly. "Lena," the dragon's voice was softer now. "You have done something no king or warrior could. You made me remember." "Remember what?" the child asked. Aristhra's eyes glowed brighter. "That once long ago I was not alone in this world." The wind outside howled through the cave, carrying dust and old whispers. Somewhere in the mountain, something ancient stirred, something that had been sleeping beneath Aristhra's heart. Lena didn't know it yet, but her small act of kindness had awakened not just a dragon's hunger, but a power the world had forgotten. And far below the mountain, shadows began to move. The desperate call had been answered. The night after Lena's visit, the wind around Eldrin Peak changed. It no longer screamed like a wounded beast, it whispered. In the cavern where silence had ruled for centuries, the air shimmered faintly. The ancient dragon, Aristhra, lay with her eyes half open, golden light pulsing faintly under her scales. She had eaten only a small piece of the child's bread, yet something strange stirred in her veins, warmth, a memory, life. She hadn't felt this way since the Age of Fire when dragons and humans shared the sky. But this warmth came with something else, a faint vibration deep in the mountain. It felt like the earth was breathing, or perhaps something beneath it had begun to wake. Outside the cave, dawn was slow and gray. Lena had returned to her small village at the foot of the mountain, her mind still full of what she'd seen. No one believed her, of course. "Child, that dragon is a monster," said old Marin, the village baker. "It's tricking you. Dragons don't eat bread, they eat people." Lena shook her head. She didn't even roar, she looked lonely. Marin sighed. "Lonely or not, don't go back there. Eldrin Peak has been cursed since before I was born. Stay away, you hear." But Lena couldn't stop thinking about those eyes, deep gold, full of sadness and something unspoken. So that night, she packed her small bag again, half a loaf of bread, a piece of cheese, and her lantern. She waited until the moon climbed high before she started up the rocky path once more. Inside the mountain, Aristhra felt the echo of approaching footsteps long before Lena arrived. A faint smile curved her scaled lips. "She comes again," she murmured to the darkness. "Humans have changed, but perhaps not all of them." The cave walls trembled as if answering her words. A low, rhythmic pulse came from deep below, a sound like a heartbeat buried under stone. The dragon frowned. That sound had not been there before. It was old, older even than her kind. When Lena appeared at the mouth of the cavern, her small lantern glowed like a star in the shadows. "You came back," Aristhra said, her voice echoing through the cave like thunder softened by rain. Lena smiled shyly. "You didn't finish your bread." The dragon tilted her head. "You returned to feed a creature that could end your village with one breath." "Why?" Lena shrugged. "You didn't eat me last time, that means you're not bad." Aristhra let out a deep sound that might have been a chuckle. "You are strange little human, brave or foolish." Lena sat down near the dragon's claw, unwrapping the small pieces of food. The warmth from Aristhra's body was like sitting near a bonfire. For a moment, both were silent. Then, from the depths of the cave, a low rumble shook the ground. Pebbles rolled across the floor. Lena's eyes widened. What was that? Aristhra's gaze turned toward the darkness. Something ancient moves, something I had hoped never to hear again. The rumble came again, this time stronger, like a heartbeat of the mountain itself. Dust fell from the ceiling, and faint red light flickered far down the tunnel. Lena clutched her lantern. "Is it another dragon?" "No," said Aristhra quietly. "It is the reason I stopped eating." Lena looked confused. "The reason?" The dragon's voice dropped softer, almost sad. Long ago I made a promise to guard something buried beneath this mountain. It was meant to sleep forever, but the world has grown restless. Greed and war have shaken its prison. Now it begins to wake. A spark of fear lit in Lena's chest. "Can't you stop it?" "I once could," said Aristhra, "but I grew tired of fighting alone. The humans I once trusted turned against me, so I waited for the world to forget." She looked down at Lena, her golden eyes glowing brighter now. "But then you came, a child with no sword, no fear, no lies." The mountain trembled again, and a faint crack of red light split the far wall. A hot wind blew through the cave, carrying whispers that were not words. Lena pressed close to the dragon's claw. "What is it?" Aristhra's scales flared with light and her great wings shifted slightly. "It is the Heartfire, a creature made of pure flame and hunger. It sleeps in the stone below us. If it wakes fully, it will burn everything, humans, dragons, even the sky itself." Lena's voice was small. "Then we have to stop it." The dragon turned to her sharply. You are but a child." Lena looked up with steady eyes. "But you said you were tired of being alone." For the first time the dragon had no answer. She stared at the child, seeing something in her, something familiar. The courage of a forgotten friend, perhaps. Another quake shook the cavern, louder this time. The red light pulsed brighter. Aristhra spread her massive wings, dust swirling in a golden storm. "Then listen, Lena of the valley," she said, her voice like rolling thunder. "If we are to face what is coming, you must do exactly as I say." The child nodded, heart pounding but eyes fearless. "Good," said the dragon, "because the mountain has awakened and it knows your name." The cave rumbled once more, and from far below a sound rose like the cry of something ancient and hungry, echoing up through the stone. Lena froze, the lantern flickered, and deep inside Eldrin Peak the Heartfire opened its eyes. The mountain did not sleep anymore. By the next dawn, the skies above Eldrin Peak glowed faint red, as if the sun had forgotten its place. The air smelled of smoke, though no fire burned. The villagers below whispered of omens, animals fled the forests, rivers steamed in the cold, and strange lights danced over the cliffs at night. And high above them all, deep in the dragon's cavern, Lena and Aristhra watched the earth tremble. The glow from the cracks in the stone had grown stronger. Every few minutes, the red light pulsed like a slow heartbeat, deep, heavy, and full of danger. Lena stood near the dragon's massive claws, her little hands gripping her lantern. "Is it alive down there?" Aristhra's voice came like a deep rumble. "Alive is not the right word. It exists. It hungers. It waits." Lena frowned. "Then why did you keep it here?" The dragon turned her gaze toward the darkness. For a moment her eyes looked older than the mountain itself. "Because once I thought I could protect it, or maybe I thought I could protect them." "Them?" Lena asked softly. "The humans," said Aristhra. "You're kind. There was a time when dragons and humans built together cities that floated in the clouds, ships that sailed through the stars. But greed burned that world. The Heartfire was born from that greed, a creature of flame made by human hands and dragon power. It was supposed to give life, but it only brought ruin." The cave shook again, louder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. Aristhra's wings unfolded slightly, scattering golden light. "It's waking faster than I thought. The old seals are breaking." Lena stepped closer, her voice trembling but steady. "Then we have to stop it before it gets out." The dragon's gaze fell upon her, soft yet firm. "To stop it, I must awaken my full strength. But my power is bound to this mountain. When I sealed the Heartfire, I gave part of my soul to keep it asleep. That is why I could no longer eat or fight. The hunger you saw was not of the body, but of the spirit." Lena's eyes widened. "Then, when you ate the bread, it fed something I had forgotten," said Aristhra quietly. "Hope." The cave pulsed with another quake. This time cracks spidered across the ground beneath them, glowing bright red. From the largest fissure, smoke began to rise, thick, hot, and glowing with embers. A deep sound echoed from below, not like thunder, but like laughter, ancient and cruel. Lena covered her ears. "What is that?" Aristhra's voice darkened. It senses me, it remembers. Then the smoke took shape. From the fissure rose a hand made of flame, enormous and clawed. The air grew so hot that the stone began to melt. The dragon spread her wings fully, roaring for the first time in centuries. The sound shook the entire mountain, scattering the red smoke for miles. Lena fell back, her heart racing, but her eyes never left the dragon. "Stay behind me," Aristhra thundered. "It is not yet fully awake, I can still hold it down." The dragon's eyes blazed golden as she summoned her ancient fire, not red, not orange, but white, pure and blinding. Her breath met the creature's flame in the air, two forces crashing like a storm. For a moment it seemed she might win. The fiery hand shuddered, retreating slightly into the crack. But then, deep below, a voice rumbled, a voice that did not belong to any creature of earth. "Aristhra, you still fight for them, the ones who betrayed you." Lena's heart froze. The voice sounded everywhere at once, in her ears, in her bones, in the wind itself. Aristhra's teeth clenched. "You speak again, cursed flame. I buried you once, I will bury you again." The laughter came again, shaking the stone. "You can't, old dragon, you are weak. You gave your heart to them and they forgot you. They let you rot in the dark." Lena shouted over the roar, "She's not alone anymore." The voice went silent for a moment, then hissed, "Ah, the child, the spark, so this is your new hope." Before Aristhra could move, a bolt of red fire shot from the crack, striking the ceiling. The blast blew open a hole and a column of flame burst into the sky. Down in the valley, the villagers screamed as a beam of red light cut through the clouds. Aristhra turned to Lena, her eyes glowing fiercely. "You must go, the path behind you, take it and run." "No," Lena cried, "I'm not leaving you. Lena, listen to me." The dragon roared, her voice filled with desperate strength. "You carry something the heart fire fears, a living soul that has not yet been corrupted. You must reach the shrine of winds beyond the ridge. Only there can the seal be remade. But go." The ground cracked beneath them again. The red hand burst higher, now forming the outline of a fiery face, vast, formless, and terrible. Lena hesitated one last time, tears in her eyes. "Promise me you'll still be here when I come back." Aristhra's gaze softened. "I will wait, little one, now run." Lena turned and ran into the dark tunnel, her small lantern swinging wildly as the cave behind her erupted with light and flame. Aristhra spread her wings wide, standing between the rising inferno and the only hope she had left. Her roar echoed through the mountains, shaking heaven and earth alike. And as Lena disappeared into the dark, the heart fire rose from the pit, a creature of burning light, reborn after 1,000 years. The war between flame and gold had begun again. Continue next part, more unique. The wind screamed through the valley as Lena clutched the glowing crystal to her chest. It pulsed like a heartbeat, warm, alive, full of energy that wasn't hers. And yet somehow it was. Each beat sent waves of light through her small hands. She could feel Aristhra, faint, tired, but still fighting. The dragon's breath echoed in her mind like distant thunder. "Lena, can you hear me?" "I can," she shouted into the wind. "Don't give up, Aristhra." The mountain in the distance burned brighter, a pillar of red fire rising into the sky. The world around her shook, the trees bending, the air rippling. Somewhere deep inside that inferno, Aristhra was still standing, Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I'm coming back for you," she whispered. "Just hold on." The crystal flared suddenly and her surroundings blurred. The wind rose in a spiral, lifting her feet from the ground. She gasped, the world twisted around her, and then everything went white. When the light faded, she was no longer in the valley. She stood in a vast, endless plain of stars. The ground beneath her glowed faintly, and above her, huge shapes moved, dragons made of starlight, flying through the dark. A voice filled the air, soft, ancient, and powerful. "Child of kindness, why have you awakened the bond?" Lena spun around. In front of her stood a woman with silver hair and eyes like the sky. Her robes shimmered like smoke. "Who are you?" Lena asked. "I am Elira," the woman said gently. the first keeper of fire. I once walked beside dragons and humans alike before the world turned to ash. Lena stared. Are you real? Elira smiled sadly. Not anymore, only a memory in the wind, but I can show you what you must see. The stars around them began to shift. The darkness rippled, revealing images like memories painted in flame. Lena saw Aristhra, younger, stronger, her wings bright as sunlight. Around her stood humans in shining armor and robes. Together they built something enormous, a circular gate of gold and stone. This was the Heart Forge, Elira said. It was made to create life fire that could think, grow, and heal, but humans grew greedy. They wanted more power. They twisted the forge into something else. The scene darkened, flames rose, screams filled the air. The fire they created took shape, a huge red being of smoke and rage, consuming everything. The heart fire, Elira whispered. Born of human pride and dragon blood, Aristhra was the one who sealed it here. She gave up half her soul to bind it beneath the mountain. Lena watched, tears shining in her eyes. She's been alone all this time, Elira nodded. Yes, she believed she had failed her kind, but when you came, you reminded her of something pure compassion. That is why the bond formed between you. That is why the heart fire fears you. Me, Lena's voice trembled, but I'm just a child. Elira knelt, placing a glowing hand on Lena's chest. No, Lena, you are the bridge, the piece of both worlds that can end this cycle. The fire within you is not meant to destroy, but to heal. The crystal at Lena's heart glowed brighter. She could feel its warmth spreading through her, filling her arms, her voice, her heartbeat. She looked up. Then tell me what I need to do. Return to the mountain, said Elira. Join your spirit with the dragons. Only together can you shape the seal again. But beware, when two hearts merge, one may fade. What do you mean? The woman's form began to fade. Every bond demands a price. Be strong, Lena of the wind. The stars vanished and Lena fell. She hit the ground hard, gasping. The valley was gone, replaced by burning sky and shaking stone. The mountain roared ahead, alive with flame. The crystal pulsed wildly now, its light matching the rhythm of the heart fire's roar. She could feel both, Aristhra's strength fading and the monster's power rising. There was no time to think, no time to rest. She began to climb. The mountain path glowed red beneath her feet, hot enough to burn, but the crystal kept her safe. Wind wrapped around her like invisible hands, shielding her from falling rocks and sparks. Halfway up, she stumbled, the ground cracked, and molten light burst through. From the fissure rose three flaming shapes, smaller than the heart fire, but deadly. Elemental beasts made of heat and smoke. Lena's heart pounded. No, not now. One leaped at her. Instinct took over. She raised her hand and the wind exploded from her palm like a cannon. The creature shattered into sparks. She stared at her hand, eyes wide. I did that. The other two lunged. She focused again, feeling the crystal's pulse with her heartbeat. The wind responded, sharp and fierce. One was swept away, the other burst apart in light. For the first time, Lena didn't feel small. She felt alive. The path ahead glowed brighter. The peak loomed closer, and in the distance she could see the faint outline of Aristhra's wings, huge and shining against the firestorm. Hold on, Lena whispered, her eyes burning with tears and determination. I'm coming. And as she climbed the last stretch of rock, the wind itself seemed to rise behind her, a storm forming from the mountain's broken heart. The fire within her was no longer just light. It was purpose. The mountain burned like a second sun. Rivers of molten light ran down its sides, and the sky was red with ash. In the storm of fire and thunder, Lena climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last, but the crystal against her heart kept glowing steady, alive, guiding her forward. Through the smoke, she could see flashes of gold. The dragon was still there. Aristhra stood on the broken ridge, her wings torn, her scales cracked and blackened. Every breath she took sent sparks into the air, but still she fought against a creature made of pure fire and hate. The heart fire had taken shape now, a blazing titan of molten flame with a face like smoke and eyes like furnaces. Its laughter echoed through the peaks. "You are finished, dragon. The age of flesh and mercy is over." Aristhra roared, her voice like thunder splitting the world. "As long as one heart still believes in light, your darkness cannot win." And then, from below, a cry rose through the storm. Aristhra, the dragon, turned, her eyes widened. There, climbing the burning ridge, was the small figure she thought she'd never see again. The child's hair whipped in the hot wind, and in her chest burned the blue light of the wind crystal. "Lena," Aristhra whispered, "you came back." The Heartfire's laughter turned to a growl. "Ah, the spark returns. Foolish child, you cannot stop me." Lena stood firm, her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. "Maybe not alone, but she's not alone either." The crystal in her chest flared and the wind roared to life. A wall of air rose around her, spinning in a bright spiral. The fire recoiled, hissing. Aristhra felt the pulse of energy and understood at once the bond had awakened. "Now," the dragon whispered, "we fight as one." She spread her wings and lowered her head. "Lena, place your hand upon my heart." The child ran forward, dodging falling embers, until she stood before the great dragon's chest. A deep golden glow shone through the cracks between her scales. Lena reached out, pressing her small hand against the warmth. The crystal and the dragon's heart pulsed together, blue and gold, wind and flame merging. The air exploded with light. Lena gasped as visions filled her mind, flying through stars, hearing the songs of dragons long gone, feeling centuries of pain and hope. And beneath it all, Aristhra's voice. Calm, ancient, loving. "Do not fear the fire, child. It burns, but it also creates." The wind around them turned silver. Aristhra's eyes blazed brighter than ever before. She lifted her head and roared, not in anger but in rebirth. Her broken scales healed in streaks of light. Her wings spread wide, burning with golden fire mixed with blue wind. For the first time in 1,000 years, the dragon of light was whole again. The Heartfire screamed, the mountain shaking. "No, you cannot bind me again." Aristhra rose into the storm, her voice booming through the clouds. "Together, Lena, call the winds." Lena closed her eyes and raised her arms. The crystal in her heart shone like a star. The sky split open and the wind obeyed. Tornadoes of silver air wrapped around the Heartfire, choking its flames. The dragon's breath struck at the same time, a beam of pure golden fire that clashed with the red inferno. The world went white. The explosion rolled through the peaks, tearing the clouds apart. Villagers far below saw only blinding light, followed by silence. When the smoke cleared, the Heartfire roared one last time, a sound of rage, fading into a whisper. Its fiery body cracked, broke, and scattered into embers that vanished into the air. Lena fell to her knees, gasping. The crystal in her chest dimmed, and the wind grew still. Aristhra landed beside her, her wings folding slowly. "You did it," Lena whispered. The dragon looked at her gently. "We did it." But then Lena noticed the golden glow in Aristhra's chest was fading. "Wait your heart," the dragon smiled sadly. "The bond has a price, little one. To seal the flame again, one heart must remain behind to guard it. Mine will burn within the mountain once more." Lena shook her head, tears spilling. "No, you can't go back. We just found each other." Aristhra lowered her head, her enormous eye soft. "And because of you, I remembered what it means to live. But now you must remember what it means to carry on." She touched Lena's chest gently with the tip of her claw. The blue crystal flared one last time, then melted into her skin, becoming part of her. "Wherever the wind blows," the dragon whispered, "my voice will be with you." The ground beneath them rumbled. The cracks began to close, sealing the fire once more. Lena clung to the dragon's claw. "Please don't leave me." Aristhra smiled, calm, eternal. "I am not leaving. I am returning to keep the world safe until you call me again." And with a final roar that shook heaven and earth, Aristhra rose into the air, wings of gold and blue fire spreading across the sky. Then her body dissolved into light, flowing back into the mountain, sealing the Heartfire beneath stone and silence once more. The wind fell quiet. The fire was gone. Only Lena remained, her small figure standing against the rising dawn. She looked up at the sky, her voice a whisper. "I'll make you proud, I promise." And as the first sunlight touched her face, the wind stirred gently like a dragon's sigh, carrying her words into eternity. The fires of Eldrin Peak had finally gone out. The sky above was calm again, blue and wide, with clouds drifting like forgotten dreams. The mountain that once burned like a god now stood silent, covered in ash and gold light. At its foot, the villagers returned slowly. They whispered in awe when they saw what had become of the land, green shoots growing through the black earth, the rivers running clear again. It was as if the world itself had been reborn. But at the highest ridge, a small figure sat quietly among the stones. It was Lena. Her clothes were torn, her hair full of dust, but her eyes held the reflection of something far greater. She looked out toward the horizon, where the wind played gently through the valleys. It whispered softly like a voice she still remembered. "Wherever the wind blows, my voice will be with you." Lena smiled sadly. "I know," she whispered. "You kept your promise." Around her, strange things had begun to happen. The animals no longer ran from the mountain, they gathered near her, calm and curious. The air shimmered faintly when she walked, as if the world itself recognized her now. Sometimes, when she was quiet, the wind would twist around her fingers in little spirals, warm and golden. She knew what that meant. A part of Aristhra lived inside her now. Weeks passed. The villagers built new homes, repaired their farms, and planted trees on the ashes. They called Lena the Wind-Blessed. But she didn't stay among them long. One morning before sunrise, she packed her small bag again, bread, water, a stone from the peak, and set out along the old road leading north. When the village elder asked where she was going, she smiled. "The world is wide. There might be others who need help like Aristhra once did." The old woman bowed her head. "And if the fire comes again," Lena looked at the mountain where a faint golden light still glowed deep in the heart of the stone. "Then the wind will rise," she said softly, "and she will hear me." That night, as she camped beneath the open sky, a storm rolled over the hills, but it wasn't a storm of fear. The wind carried voices, faint, distant, but full of warmth. Lena closed her eyes. She saw stars, hundreds, thousands, and among them the shape of a dragon made of pure light soaring through the sky. "Do you still hear me, little one?" She smiled in her dream, "Always. Then remember what I taught you. Fire destroys, yes, but it also gives light. Never fear it. The same flame that burned the world once saved it." "I'll remember," Lena whispered. "I promise." "Then this is not goodbye," said the dragon's voice. "Only the beginning of another story." The stars brightened, and from the clouds above, a streak of golden fire crossed the heavens, vanishing beyond the horizon. Lena woke as dawn touched the earth. The storm had passed, and the wind brushed her cheek gently, carrying a faint warmth like a dragon's breath. She stood, tightening her bag. "All right, world," she said with a grin. "Let's see what comes next." The wind laughed softly in reply. And somewhere, deep inside the sleeping mountain, a heartbeat echoed once more, slow, strong, eternal. The bond of flame and wind would never truly fade. It had simply become part of the world. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.